How's your week been, guys? Anyone want to unmute themselves or put themselves on camera or say hello? I see a bunch of familiar faces. I'm looking for people that might be new, but we'll let people kind of trickle in here. So this is the first week that we're kind of pushing this out as a, what's up, Jacqueline? We're pushing this out as more of a specific advertised topic, right? Today's going to be rehab cost, like mastery. So figuring out what offers you need to be making on properties and identifying what the rehab is. And if you guys see, I actually have Steve Horn on the call. I'm going to be highlighting him here in a second. Steve is a general contractor, and he's here to kind of talk and kind of reinforce the way that GCs think about things and how buyers think about things. And so today's going to be a deep dive on rehab estimates and like looking at properties and figuring out what the price per square foot is and all of that kind of fun stuff. What's up, Irving? How you doing? So let's give it, we're 1 minute in. I hate these first couple of minutes because it's just like I got to wait for the room to fill. But anyway, Joe, what have you been up to, buddy?
Not much. My kid's been sick, so I've been dealing with that. And with the whole war going on, scheduling is changing for my wife too.
What, remind me what your wife does again?
Munitions.
Oh, that's right.
Or
that's
munitions. Right. It sounds cooler than it is, but yeah, her work schedule is kind of crazy. So
that's so funny. You know what? I think that I'm going to have to ask one of my students. There's a gentleman named Kadarius who's one of my students, and I think he does munitions too. Up in
at Hill?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's ordnance.
Ordnance
munitions.
Yeah. So
the Air Force.
Whatever.
It's a small world. We might know him.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, fun times, crazy times. A lot of fun right now happening.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny. Like we live in our own world where we think that like everything's miserable and the whole world is degrading and stuff like that. But like, I want to wonder, during the Cold War, did our parents feel the same way during the Cold War that we feel right now? And then World War I, World War II and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. It's a sociology experiment. All right, guys. All right, let's get this started. We have a slightly smaller showing today. Not really sure why. Maybe people are just running late, or maybe people are finally enjoying an early Friday off because of the good weather. So that could be it as well. But like I said, guys, I want to, I'm going to highlight Steve Horn here right now. Where are you, Steve? There you are.
I'm right here.
Dude, why is my thing doing this? Oh, this is so broken. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, there you go, Steve. So guys, so today is our rehab costs mastery class. Okay. And if you guys remember, if you guys have been here consistently, first I want to say I appreciate you guys being here. That means a lot to me. Like I said, we do this call every single Friday, but that does not give you an excuse not to show up just because we do it next week and the week after. The goal for this call, the goal for this Zoom is it needs to be a deep dive workshop for all of you guys. And this is part of the investor semester. I guess you could say it's sponsored by the investor semester. And the entire goal right now is we want to do deep dives on certain subjects within the investment space. And we've been kind of chronologically, the same way that I teach my students, we've been doing week after week going into a deep dive. Okay. And so week number one, I'm just going to do a really quick summary of what we've been focusing on. Week number one was all about identifying, are you a visionary or are you an integrator, right? How to find the right partners, how to find the right people to work with. So that's week number one. Then week number two was the conveyor belt. So specific seats in your business and like what you should be thinking about replacing first. And, of course, lead generation and keeping yourself in acquisitions. And so we talked about the conveyor belt of all the seats in your business and how to fill them in which order. Then we went into marketing 101. So actually how to identify your campaigns and go from there. And then last week, oh my gosh, why am I blanking out right now? What did we talk about last week? Last week was an awesome presentation. Shoot. What did we talk about? I'm thinking here. Okay. Conveyor belt, marketing. Was anyone here from last week? Do I have to go back to my other?
I think I missed.
Yeah, I think you did. Hold on. Let me go back to my other thing.
Just auction and foreclosure.
That's it. Thank you. I'm spacing out. Okay. So the week before that, we talked about marketing 101. All right. And then last week we talked about marketing to specifically foreclosures and notice of trustee sales. We really talked about the psychology behind it. We talked about the timeline, the strategies and all that kind of fun stuff. And so that was kind of the introduction into marketing and then actually how to generate and start generating leads. Today, I think what's really important is we're going to be going into rehab estimates and how to walk into a property or walk into a group of photos or even over the phone, start to get a picture in your brain about what it's going to cost for the rehab, because a lot of new wholesalers, they underestimate extensively, really badly. It's almost to the point of like a joke where they're like, yeah, it's a full gut rehab on a 1910 Rambler that has mold issues, and the rehab should only be $15,000. That is a very, very common thing. Ian, how can you connect with me? I'll tell you right now, if I'm going to be connecting with anybody right now, it's going to be through a 15-minute strategy call. I'll post a link at the end of this. Guys, if you're thinking about being part of the next semester, if you want to become a student, that's the only way to join. So, and not to say no offense, Ian, it's not that I don't want to just hop on random calls, but what my offer is to you guys, if you want to hop on a 15-minute call and we can map out like the next 90 days of your business, and then it seems like a good fit that we can possibly work together in implementing that, that's the conversation. And if it's not a good fit, not a good timeline, at least you can walk away with like 90 days of action plan. Does that make sense, buddy? Adam, thank you, buddy. Join. Yeah. Adam says join, guys. I appreciate that. Adam, Jeremy's a real deal. Level up. I love that. Thank you, dude. Guys, at the end of this, I'll talk more about, getting to become a next student. If that's something you want to do, like I said, we are growing the community right now. I'm looking for the right people to bring on. So no shame here. I'm looking for new students. Okay. So anyway, guys, like I said, I appreciate you guys all being here. And so as we dive into this, let me go back to my screen that I had here. Oh yeah. Sharon, thanks for doing these Zoom meetings, Jeremy, and for the text reminders. If we missed any of your Friday investor semester from last week, can we view? Yes. It's like I almost have like locked in advertising. Ava, can you do me a favor? Can you put my YouTube link in the chat right now? Guys, if you have not subscribed, I would really appreciate it. Click on my YouTube link real quick, subscribe to it. We put all of our recordings from our past sessions, and we also have our podcast there. You can also be part of all the interviews and stuff like that. And yeah, click that link right now. I would appreciate your subscription, and hopefully you guys can watch the previous episode to get all caught up. Speaking of that, who here, I want to know, like right now, who here has done a deal? I want to know who here's never done a deal. Put one in the chat that they've never done a deal before. Okay. Irving, Shirley, Jacqueline. Now put in the chat 2 if you guys have already done a couple, like if you've done 1 deal, 2 deals. Caesar, Sharon, Vernine. Okay, Joe, Jason, Jonathan. So guys, I asked that question because I am now opening up our podcast to interview you guys. So if you don't mind, I can have Ava. I want to have Ava reach out to each of you guys, and everyone who put 2, I want Ava to send you guys an invite link. If you guys want to find a time to book it on the podcast, I want to interview you guys because I think it's about time where it's less about me talking about certain things. And I want to highlight you guys that are here during our meetings. I want to highlight you guys about, how you got your first deal, what got you into wholesaling or investment. And I want other people to kind of hear the people that are maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of them versus me. I'm many steps ahead. I would love to highlight you guys. So, and Sharon, I would love to talk to you. You say, I would only be a good person to talk to if you want to know what not to do. That is perfect. I would love to highlight any mistakes you've made, and we can also spend that time to talk about how to fix those mistakes. Okay. So everyone who said 2, Abba's going to be sending you DM right now for a booking link. If you don't mind, please go ahead and do that. And that would mean a lot to me. Okay. Thanks, Irving. All right. So as I was saying, I've got so many housekeeping items. If you guys want, do me a favor, Abba, while you're also at it, put the ebook link. Guys, if you haven't downloaded the Creative Cookbook, by all means, my way of saying thank you guys for being here, it's going to be in the chat. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, after this has been uploaded, we'll put that into the show notes as well, so you guys can download that. So let me just scroll ahead here. All right, so here we go, guys. There we go. Thank you very much, Abba. All right, guys, so let's get focused right now. So as you can see here, there's two people that are highlighted on your screen, myself, and then we've got Steve Horn here. Steve Horn is not only a friend of mine, he is also a semester student, and he is also an incredible general contractor. And as you can see right now, he is literally on the job site doing something that is what? Okay, I see a door knob.
Here. I'll display it. Let me. Come on.
You trying to reverse your camera?
Yeah.
Just spin the camera around, like just right now, like as it is.
Okay. So, bathroom remodel.
Nice, looks good.
Full gut, all the way down to the studs, all the way down to like floor joists and everything. Shower is here now. Bathtub is here. Big soaking tub. It used to be over here. So we moved walls, ripped up floor, found mold, remediated, windows removing, deleting, reinstalling, new cabinetry. I mean, there's nothing about this bathroom that was here when we started.
Those are the best remodels. Right now, I'm not going to have you talk about pricing. You're obviously in the home right now. So in case the homeowner's there, I don't want to have anything talked about there. But
you can step out in a minute though.
Yeah, exactly. So awesome. So keep doing what you're doing. So guys, as I said before, the two mistakes that I see the most of the time happen when it comes to rehabs are from two different types of avatars or two different personas. One is the beginner wholesaler that does not understand rehab. And two is the real estate agent that has no idea how to do a rehab in the first place. And so I hear this all the time. If I'm ever talking to a property that's listed or it's a pocket listing, and I say to the agent, I go, what do you think the renovation is? Just like you've seen the property, what do you think it is? And they're always going to say, oh, I don't know, 15, 20,000, something like that for a full gut rehab. And we have to realize now that they have no idea what they're talking about. And so what I want you guys to take away from this call, I want you guys to be able to walk away with not only the skill sets, but also the logic of how we approach a renovation. Okay. And so what I want to start off with talking about first is who is or what is the most important thing when you are estimating a rehab? Put in the chat, what do you think the most important part, if you're a wholesaler in the entire business, the grand scheme of things, if you can say one word, what is the most important thing that you need to consider about rehab estimates? Overestimate. Okay, that's good. Adam says overestimate. Expect it to take longer. Okay, timeline. Condition. Hey, Vernine. I did not think anyone was going to get this. You're right. It's buyer. Okay. Shirley says square footage. The comps. Carlos says the comps. All of these are very good. All of these are extremely perfect points. But the most important point is the buyer. Okay. And some of you guys might be going like, whoa, what does that mean? Okay. Well, remember, we're talking from a wholesale perspective, or if you're a fix and flipper, you are also the buyer, right? So let's keep that in mind. Okay. So, sorry, I just got distracted. I want to make sure it's recording. So as I was saying, the buyer is the most important thing. And why do I want to talk about the buyer in this circumstance? Okay. You guys are seeing my screen, right? Right here. Good. Well, let me make this a little bit bigger. Zoom in. There we are. Okay. So why is the buyer the most important thing? Okay. Buyer. Why is this the most important thing in estimating rehab? Well, it's because let's say your buyer, Jonathan, are you in this call right now? I thought I saw your name in there. Yeah, there. Okay. Yes. Jonathan Castaneda, one of my students. Hopefully maybe this weekend or next week, if the house doesn't sell yet, I actually want to do a meetup at your property, bro. For all my Utah people, I'd love to do a walkthrough. We can talk about the renovations and stuff like that. But Jonathan, and I bring him up often, is Hispanic. Okay. And he speak Spanish fluently, and a lot of his circle of influence are also Hispanic contractors. And so Jonathan, I am extremely, extremely jealous of. Okay. And I've told him this many, many times. I'm super, super jealous because the rehabs that he is doing, he is getting that labor for way, way cheaper. Because if you think about this, the circle of influence that I have, I'm congregating around other more experienced investors, and the contractors and the subs that are in that circle of influence, they typically are going to charge more. Okay. And being in Salt Lake City, one of the hottest markets as well, we are going to be paying top dollar for labor. And so Jonathan, for the exact same job that I would have to pay for, might get it for 20, 30, 40, or even 50% less expense. Now, materials, you can't fight that. Okay. Materials are materials, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But when we talk about buyers, let's talk about like what the difference in buyers are right now. Okay. So we have typical buyers are going to be your fix and flipper, right? Well, first and foremost, there's different tiers to being a flipper. Okay. All right. So different tiers to being a flipper. So number one is going to be the flipper that needs, my son was definitely playing with all the colors on this thing. One is going to be the flipper. Whoops. Stop that. There we go. The flipper that has a project manager. Okay. Do you guys know what a project manager typically charges? It's about 10, 15, 20% of the top line. Okay. So if your renovation is $100,000 tab, you're ending up paying about 110 to 120,000. More than likely, it's going to be 120,000. Okay. So if you have to have a project manager, that's one thing. If you also have to have a project manager that also is going to hire a general contractor, that's going to be another expense. If you're also trying to follow the rules and you're going to be pulling permits, which wink, wink, I recommend always pulling permits in whatever project you're doing because it's the law. Okay. But to my point, if you're pulling permits, your timeline now goes up, your expenses go up, and you've also got to get a GC in there. So all of these are going to be adding extra expenses. Okay. Now let's say you're also, the next layer is going to be the do-it-yourselfer, the DIYer. Okay. The DIYer is going to be potentially a buyer or a flipper that has no problem getting in there and doing the work themselves. Okay. That happens all the time. They would, a lot of flippers might actually go in and change the, paint the walls, change the drywall, replace the flooring, whatever that is. But when they do that, Steve, I'm going to mute you, buddy. Just there's a little bit of feedback. But when you have a DIYer, they are willing to pay more for a property because they're saving more on labor. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So continuing on with that. Then finally, so we've got the project manager type of flipper, then we've got the DIYer, and then the final one is, I'm going to call them for the sake of this, is going to be the bulk buyer. Bulk buyers are freaking awesome because those are the people that are crushing it in this business. Those are the people that are ordering literal connexes. They're ordering delivery freight of dozens and dozens of items from China. They are buying in bulk. They're buying vanities. They're buying cabinets. They're buying flooring. They're literally buying it in massive bulk, and they're actually paying for a warehouse storage so that every flip they do, they're using the same materials, the same paint, the same everything, and they're making a lot of their flips look very, very streamlined and very, very similar. Their job is they want to stay up to date on the current year, what the best material and what the look is. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So out of these, which one do you think is able to pay the most for a flip, for a property? It's going to be that bulk buyer, right? The bulk buyer. They're able to get in, get out. They've got their project manager, but their project manager is typically going to be working on salary instead of a percentage. Okay. So they're going to be on a base salary, and that project manager is not there to manage only one flip. That project manager is there to manage multiple flips that we call a sequential flip. Okay. So it's going to be a perpetual flip that one after the next, after the next. First people that are going to be there are going to be the framers. As soon as those framers are done, they're going to move to the next job. Then the drywall comes in. As soon as that drywall is done, they move to the next job. Their job is to be able to keep the system going so that they don't lose any of their quality talent or any of their quality contractors. This is also where, if you're seeing bulk buyers, these are also the people that are going to be showing up at the auction steps to buy properties, and they might even typically overpay because they're trying to keep their pipeline fed. They're trying to keep their workers working, because if they can't get their workers working and the workers go to another flipper, they lose quality talent. Does that make sense to you guys? Steve, you want to unmute yourself real quick.
Yep.
Anything to add to that right now?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I could add some minutia, but that's about it. Realistically, yeah. If you're talking, the bulk buyer is the guy who's going to be able to pay the most, and like you said, be even willing to overpay slightly if necessary, because they're drywall guys, they're painters, they're cabinet guys. They're literally, their goal is going to be to keep that subcontractor only working for them. So
Correct.
Yeah, and because of that, the other side of that too is, I mean, I know that if my electrician is busy all year long on just my jobs, then my cost goes down because he's going to give me a better price. Same with my painters, my drywallers, everything. So not only are they willing to pay a little higher if necessary, but their actual cost is going to be lower because it is, you're getting a better deal because you're bulk buying material, but you're also basically bulk buying labor.
Yep.
So
exactly right. So it's when I find a buyer that's a bulk buyer, I will make them a VIP all day long, because those are also the people that are the least amount of resistance, least amount of friction. They already know. I mean, think about this for a second. What's a very popular floor plan here in Utah? The split level. Okay. You guys are knowing what I'm talking about. Coming from California, from Los Angeles, they didn't have those things. But what is a split level, guys? A split level is basically a 2-story property that is not on the top of the ground, and it's not deep enough to create a basement level. It's just deep enough to where they cut through the frost layer, just deep enough to where the front door is level with the ground. But then when you walk in, you start to go down a few steps or you go up a few steps, and then that's your 2-story. Okay, you guys are familiar with it. If you're in Utah or probably any place that can actually get frozen, the split level is a very, very common floor plan. I know walking into a split level, I know what beams and what joists can be removed. I know what is load bearing. I know what my cost per square foot is. I know all of that walking in, to where if you showed me a video walkthrough or a photo of a property that was a split level, I can give you an answer over the phone, whether it's a yes or a no based on the price. Because I've done this before. I've done this many times before, so I know what to expect. I know that if I got a sledgehammer and I punch through that wall, I know what to expect on the other side of the wall. I know where the ducting is. I know where the floorboards need to be. I know where all this stuff is. And so again, a bulk buyer is going to be great for that. A project manager buyer, those are going to be the people that need it for the lowest cost ever, because they're paying a lot of money to have that work. I, unfortunately, myself, I'm a project manager buyer. I'll be honest with you. I'm this buyer. This is me. Okay. Why is that? Well, it's number one, because I'm not consistently doing flips anymore. That's not my focus. The market has slipped. The market has gone down. I'm not putting in enough time like I used to into flips. And so for me, if I'm going to flip any property, it's going to be one of my deals that I find that I get it at a grand slam price. Because the way I look at it, if I can make, if you guys are a student, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. If I can make $30,000 on a wholesale deal where I'm in and out in 14 to 21 days, I have no exposure, I have no liability, there's nothing that can go wrong, and I make $30,000 in less than 3 weeks, versus I can make $60,000 or $90,000 in 6 months or more, what do you think is the right answer? Put it in the chat. Would you rather make 30 or would you rather make 90? Joe says now money. Exactly right. If you were part of the Marketing 101 session that we did, it's because now money is a faster cash conversion cycle that you're able to take that capital. Not only can you pay yourself and actually take a salary and actually reward yourself as a business owner, but you're able to take that capital and reinvest it into more marketing. And $10,000, because we know about marketing, we've talked about this. If you can spend $10,000 on marketing and make 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 off that 10, is it a lot better to make that first $30,000 in less than a month than it would be 90,000 on a flip? The answer is always going to be yes. However, I said to you a second ago, I'm a project manager buyer. I don't have the time to manage my own flips. I'm not a general contractor. But for me, the only reason I would do a flip is, number one, if it's going to be a grand slam home run. I'm always going to be making over $100,000. Number two, I don't need an influx of cash. I don't need that capital to reinvest it into more marketing. Because again, guys, there is a law of diminishing returns. Even though I say if you spend $10,000, you can make, 50, that is very true. But if you spend $100,000 on marketing, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be making $500,000. It could if you're nationwide, but if you're in certain specific markets, there's only so many leads that you can close in a certain month. So there is a law of diminishing returns. For Neen, you need co-living in Utah. No, you don't. No, you don't. You need to find better deals to where you don't have to make it into co-living. I love you. Okay. We can talk about that later. I'm not a fan of co-living at all. I think co-living became an answer for people that didn't have the ability to find good creative deals or good cash flowing deals. So they kind of got forced into co-living. I'm not a big fan of co-living, especially now that they're cracking down on it and they're shutting it down and they're applying additional fees from the city and stuff like that. They're getting fined. I'm not a big fan of co-living. But again, if you're finding actual deals that cash flow because you know how to market effectively, you just make them into a long-term rental. But anyway, sidetrack. Okay. So as I said, guys, I'm a project manager buyer because I'm not doing this on a consistent basis. And I'm also not living in the property, and I'm not going to get into the property and paint it myself with a paintbrush. Okay. If I ever do go into it and I do some work, it's usually going to be a very small thing. Okay. Like, great example. One of my rentals right now, their air conditioning broke. Okay. They text me yesterday. I know what the problem is. It's a capacitor. It's on the outside unit. It's going to take me about 10 minutes to fix it and replace it, unscrew it, and put the new capacitor in. Listen, maybe I'm cheap. Maybe I just don't want to pay an HVAC guy a few $100s. And this property is about 5 minutes from where I live. So I'm just going to swing by on my way to dinner tonight. I'm just going to replace the capacitor. That's the extent of like what I'll do for my properties. Okay. So anyway, I want to move past the buyer. You guys all get the buyer aspect of it. The buyer is the most important thing that you have to consider, which is again, why, if we start to really dissect this, we want to market to what? Median household prices, right? Because in the median household price, you have the most amount of demand. Okay. And so you have the most amount of end buyers. Those people are buying the median household price. So then if those are the most buyers, then you want the flippers to also be in that same median household price. So that's what we're going to be trying to target as well. Okay. So now moving away from buyers, does anyone have any questions? Do you ever just ballpark? Do you ever just ballpark it? Irving, in this business, you're always ballparking it. You always are. But the question is, how tight can you get that ballpark? Okay. What I'm saying is like, do you ballpark it and you're giving yourself a plus or minus $50,000 cost? No. But are you ballparking can you get to a $5,000 to $10,000 difference? Absolutely. And can you work with that? Absolutely. Because like I said, let's say the average sale price to a flipper, okay, is going to be right here. I'm going to say it's $100,000. Okay. $100,000. The project manager buyer is probably going to need to get this for 90. Okay. The DIYer might be able to pay for it at 100, but then the bulk buyer might be able to actually pay 110. Do you follow that, Irving? Okay. So because we want to try to find and we want to try to build a strong buyer's list once we actually have a deal, if we're in the ballpark of $100,000 plus or minus 10,000 in either direction, a bulk buyer is still going to be your buyer. A project manager can still be your buyer, and a DIYer can still be your buyer, but it just depends on you building out that buyer's list. Okay? Anyone have any questions before we move on to actual rehab? No. All right, good. Absolutely. You're very welcome. Okay, guys. So now, when we are estimating rehab, we are going to be breaking it into, I guess you can say, 4 or 5 main buckets. All right. Whoa, that is really thick. I'm just going to do that again. Okay. Let's do this. So 4 or 5 buckets. Okay. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and I'll even zoom out a little bit here, and here's 5. Okay. What we want to identify is this. Let me go here. Let me make this a little smaller. There we are. Number 1, this is what we call our lipstick. Okay. Lipstick fix. That is a K, not an H. There we go. Lipstick fix. The next one is going to be our minor rehab. The next one is going to be our major. Whoops, that is not how you spell major. Major. The next one is going to be luxury. And the last one is going to be luxury, and I'll even say plus. Okay? Lipstick, minor rehab, major rehab, luxury rehab, and luxury plus. Would you say that those are the 5 buckets there, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Making sure I'm not missing any. Okay, so lipstick fix, guys. What do you think is in a lipstick fix? Well, it's pretty easy. It's lipstick, right? You're applying paint, okay? So in a lipstick fix, paint, Rosemarie says paint, barely anything. Shirley says painting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we've got painting here. You might be carpet, okay? Carpet or flooring. We could look at it that way. This could also be fixtures. Mm-hmm. All right. So this is going to be like your boob lights, or, if you know what I'm talking about, like lights up on the top. This could be hardware. Okay. So we call hardware. That is what, guys? That's like doorknobs, things like that. Yep. Okay. Nothing that has to be taken off the hinges, nothing like that. It's just going to be very, very simple things. What do we put in the chat right now? Give me a price range. What do you guys think a lipstick fix price per square foot should be? Now, remember, when I say price per square foot, this is how we start to find our estimate. All right. Our estimate is going to be, if the property is 1,000 square feet, we are going to take that number and we're going to multiply it by 1,000, and that is going to give us our estimated rehab. All right. Cortland says $20 per square foot. Shirley says 25. Right around that range. You're right. This is what I would look at it as, guys. I would want to see this as 15 to 25 per square foot. Okay? 15 to 25. Why is there a range? Well, it's depending on the materials you're using, right? If you're using really crappy feldspar paint that you can get at Home Depot versus Sherwin-Williams, my God, emerald, and things like that, they're higher stuff, it's going to be a variation. Sharon, that pencil in the hat, if we didn't believe Steve was a serious contractor, now we're convinced. Absolutely.
That thing has saved my life, dude.
I love it. So guys, $15 to $25 per square foot. Okay. Then when we look at a minor rehab, okay, what is a minor rehab? I will say, if you guys want to throw in, what is a minor rehab, guys? Minor rehab is going to be, I'm waiting for someone to type. I know you're thinking, like, what would go into a minor rehab? Toilets, sheetrock, and then Cortland says 30 to 35. Okay, so remember, we want to have a little bit of an overlap, okay? And so that overlap here is going to be, we're starting at 25, okay? And we're going to 35, all right? So, because again, you can do a minor rehab with really cheap materials and be closer to the 25, or you can use better materials. But in that, all the previous plus vanities maybe? Yeah, I think so. So what you're doing is you're walking into a home and you are considering updating that home. That's the best way to put it. You are updating that home, and that means new vanities. That means new toilets. That can mean kitchen cabinets. That can mean countertops. You are basically making this property look like 20. What's that? Who's talking real quick? Hold on real fast. Someone unmuted themselves. Shirley, I'm going to mute you real quick. Anyway, so as I was saying, you are walking into that property and you are doing everything to keep the floor plan the same. You might open up one wall. Okay. And what I mean by one wall is, let's say you decide to open, take away closet space to make a bigger bathroom or something like that. You're just not changing around the floor plan. As Steve was showing a second ago when he was in that house that he's working on, he rearranged the entire bathroom. That is not a minor rehab. That's going to be a major rehab. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about that? When we are walking into a property and it's got an open floor plan, it doesn't really need to have any remodeling for the layout or anything like that. You're just going in with new fixtures, new countertops, new flooring, new bathroom, new vanity, new mirrors, new bathtub even, but you're just updating it. That is going to be about $25 to $35 per square foot. Follow me there, guys? Any questions so far? Sharon says minor equals just pick and choose anything super shabby to replace. Exactly right. Okay. This is going to be what we also want to consider to be like the landlord special, right? Where they're maybe going to be taking a property and going in and like you buy a property and you go, you know what? Let me put in new countertops. Okay. That could even be doing quartz countertops. Right now, we're not seeing a lot of Formica, even for rental properties, because now landlords are really trying to get as much rent out of it as possible. They're actually upping their materials a little bit. Okay. So we see a lot of minor rehabs are also going to be for rentals. That's also going to be for Vernine, for you. That's also going to be co-living, it's going to be a minor rehab. Okay. Now, let me add one more thing. With co-living, you're also going to be adding more walls because you're actually trying to make a 3-bedroom home into a 6-bedroom motel. So you will be adding walls, but in relation to cost, price per square foot, adding a wall is not very expensive. It's really not. It's a few $100s. Like if you're going to be, if there's no electric, it's going to be a couple $100s. It's just getting in the framer, putting in wood, sheetrock, and paint. It's really not adding a lot of expense. But if you're adding electric, now you got to tap into your supply and stuff like that. Maybe it's a little bit more, but adding walls is really not a big deal. Okay. All right. So, yeah, perfect for co-living to add walls. Thank you, Corlin. So any questions about minor before we move to major? Okay. Major is going to be roughly 35 to 50. All right. Now, a major rehab is everything I just talked about in minor, except now you are moving around the walls. Okay. Oh, Corlin said it was playing. Yeah, perfect for co-living to add. Exactly right. Literally, like a co-living investor just looks at any house and goes, "How many rooms can I add here?" That's all it is. And how much smaller can I make the kitchen? That's basically the trade-off. Anyway, so guys, major rehab. This is where most flippers exist, okay? You guys, I'm going to say this right now, you guys from a wholesale perspective, I would even exist in the lipstick fix. I would even consider taking that on. Like Adam, one of my students, right now is doing a wholesale deal. Adam, are you there, buddy? If you are, unmute yourself right now.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Okay. So you've got a property under contract right now, and you've taken title, correct?
Correct.
Okay, guys, that is what we call a wholesale deal. Okay, I'm going to highlight Adam here just for a second. A wholesale deal is like a wholesale, but is putting it on the retail market. And to be able to do so, you take title. You actually buy that property, typically whether it's hard money or private money, doesn't really matter, but you now own that property. And what you do is you fix that property up just enough, and then you hold on to that property for about 90 days. Do you guys know why you would hold on to it for 90 days? Pop quiz. Why do you hold on to a property for 90 days? Cortland. There you go. Joe Lee, FHA, VA. Cortland says FHA. Exactly right. So you have to have a 90-day seasoning period for a homeowner that's looking to buy and they're using an FHA loan. The property has to be owned by the seller for at least 90 days to do so. So right now, Adam, and we were just talking about this, is identifying what is the best road to go down. Is it going to be doing a lipstick wholesale deal, or is it going to be identifying the profit on actually doing a flip? And I think, Adam, you and I have talked about this. We're going to go down that wholesale route, right? Where if anything,
the buyer backed out yesterday, and
Okay.
so I'm going to the property either later tonight or tomorrow morning and just mapping out just some confirming numbers to flip it.
Awesome. Okay. Things change, guys. That's the business. But in the best case scenario for Adam, this is what he would be doing. He would be, if he was trying to push it out to FHA, he would maybe go in there and replace the roof, which needs to be done, and maybe clean up a couple of things, some paint job, maybe replace a little bit of carpet. But as long as an FHA loan can get approved to buy that property, that would be Adam's play. But in this circumstance, the buyer just fell through. So he actually might consider and map out what a full flip might look like, but he's got it at a great price because he found the deal. So he can consider, hey, if he gets a private money loan for the rehab and goes in and fixes that property, how much profit can he make, right? So that's what we want to consider. But from a wholesale perspective, guys, lipstick fixes are 100% fine. I have made so much money off of doing wholesale lipstick fixes where all you got to do is come out of pocket, maybe $10,000. You just do the new carpet, new paint, do a couple of fixtures, and then you sell that property. Boom. You just made a lot of money. Okay. So, and even minor rehabs, I still think that minor rehabs are not bad if you're able to find a project manager or a GC that can take the project on. But I don't recommend, if you don't have someone that can do that for you, you should not be attempting a minor rehab by yourself the very first time. Okay. Anyway, guys, getting back to major rehab. This is what I want to talk about right now. $35 to $50 per square foot. This is where you are going to be fully rehabbing the property. You are going to be opening up walls. You are going to be rearranging the floor plan. You're going to be changing around everything. That's going to be the bathroom. That's going to be the kitchen. This is where creativity really begins to shine. If you guys ever walked my Berrydale property in South Jordan, that was a big luxury flip that I did. And the before and the after, the only thing that stayed the same was the exterior wall. Everything else on the inside, every wall was moved. Everything was opened up. You would never be able to recognize and in fact, the sellers asked to walk the property and they were amazed. They were like, I didn't even know a bathroom could be here. Okay. When it comes to $35 to $50 per square foot, think about this for a second. If you're moving a toilet, what does that mean? You now have to go into the subfloor. You now have to move around all the piping and all the plumbing and making sure it's up to code. So every single thing you move is now going to up in price exponentially. Okay. So $35 to $50 per square foot is going to be everything that we listed before, but it's going to be new floor plan. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Finally, now we're moving into luxury. Luxury is identical to a major renovation, okay? But luxury is going to be roughly, I'll put the numbers up here because I don't have a lot of space. Actually, no, I'll put them down here. So luxury is, I don't even want to say 50. I really don't. And I said most of these prices are going to overlap. Luxury is going to start at about $75 per square foot. Right off the bat, okay? You can't really get luxury at $50 per square foot unless you're only maybe updating a couple small things. But luxury, you are now paying for top materials. You are paying for better quartzite, not quartz. You're paying for quartzite. You're paying for marble. You're paying for granite. You're paying for some nice things. Shirley says, I'm wholesaling in Georgia. Will price per square foot be the same? Well, it depends. Shirley, Georgia, okay, is a state. If you're in Atlanta, then the answer is yes. If you're in a more rural area outside of a major city square, okay, then you're going to be getting contractors that might be working at a cheaper price. Because again, supply and demand, when there is a low supply of contractors, but a very high demand for people to flip properties, those contractors can charge extra for labor. Make sense? So what I always recommend to everybody is all of these numbers. These are, again, ballpark figures. What you should be doing, and Steve, you were talking about going into just earlier, you were going, walking into a flooring store, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like, what would you do right now? If you were going to be in a new market, what would you do right now? Ignore my boba, guys.
Your boba. Okay. So basically on that, what I would suggest is like, okay, you're in a new market, doesn't matter if it's just where you live or whatnot. You can always find like the big, like not Home Depot, but like the big flooring stores. Like around here, we've got like Great Floors, different stuff like that. You can reach out to those guys and be like, hey, I'm buying a house. It's about 2,000 square feet. I need to get the flooring replaced, but I don't have access to the house. I'm trying to get a budget. Ballpark me. What kind of price would I pay to put in, say, LVP? You guys come in, tear out all the old carpet, put in LVP, like in a mid-grade or higher grade, where would I be looking? And they can give you a rough price per square foot. It might be, on the low end, you might be able to get away with $5 to $8. And then obviously you can go up from there. But that's going to give you an idea of where to market for, or where to mark your number for flooring. Painting, you can kind of do the same thing, but realistically, most of the time, painting, I would say $6 a square foot for interior, assuming there's nothing too crazy, is probably gonna, that works in my area. Different things, when you start talking about big things, windows, doors, that can get complicated. But
Steve, let me talk about material for just a second here. So number one, like we're talking about painters, for example. So there's two different types of painters out there. There's actual painters, but then there's also paint companies that contract out subcontractors. And it's just like a wholesaler, right? It's just like a wholesaler. You're paying top dollar to have them find a painter for you, just like a wholesaler would find a buyer for the seller. So you're actually going to be paying more. And so what Steve is basically saying is go try to find like a large flooring store and say, what would the general average pricing be for LVP? Now, remember we talked about materials, guys. We can talk about, linoleum. Okay. Super, super cheap material. Like just rolls it out. They lay it down. They glue it on the floor. Now we're talking about LVP, luxury vinyl planking. There's also LVT, luxury vinyl tile. They can also be used in bathrooms and stuff. That's where a lot of the homes are now being done. Even some luxury is also doing LVP. And then finally, you got the highest material, which is actually going to be like hardwood floor. Okay. Or actual marble tile or things like that. Right.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that I recommend to all of you guys is if you really, really, really want to dial in your question there, Shirley, about, wholesaling in Georgia, call those stores up and just try to get a general idea of what 1,000 or a 2,000 square foot property are going to cost for a general LVP. Now, even LVP could be a 3 millimeter thick. It could be a 4 millimeter thick. It could have padding included. It's actually like a rubber padding on the bottom to make it better. There's so much that can be added to make the expensive or the material more expensive and also be subtracted. So does that make sense, Shirley? Like that's what I would recommend is that wherever you are, you can get a general idea, but you can really hone it in by actually calling those stores and getting an idea of those costs. Does that make sense? Okay. So luxury, guys, again, it's going to typically be, thank you. It's going to typically be everything from a major rehab, but now you are going higher end materials. Hold on real quick. Sharon, figuring painting always freaks me out. How do you figure square footage of the house or 4 times it since there's walls than a ceiling? No. We're just looking at just general square footage of the floor plan. Okay. You're not, you're not thinking like, okay, if there's, one wall here that you're multiplying by the square foot of that wall. No. It's when they walk in, they go in with rollers, they go in with sprayers, and it's just the size of that room that they're going to be looking at. And that's all they're doing. They're just going to tape everything off. They're going to put plastic on the things that shouldn't get painted. And they just go in and just hit that entire house. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's not multiplying it by, square footage times, you're not cubing the square footage. Okay. Anyway, so as I was saying, wrapping up luxury, right? You've got it $75 plus per square foot. Why do I talk about luxury plus? Okay. Luxury plus is not $75 plus. Luxury plus is going to be closer to $150 all the way up to $300 per square foot. Okay. And you're going, what? But think about this. What's the logic that I'm about to get into here when it comes to luxury plus? If you have a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood and you're just, replacing the kitchen and the bathrooms and you're making everything look really, really clean and beautiful, that's luxury. But now, what if you want to add a third kitchen? What if you want to add a butler's pantry? Okay. What if you want to add a steam room or a sauna or a bowling alley? Okay. These are things that now the sky is the limit of whatever you want to add it to. As long as you have enough square footage, you could put in whatever you want to put in there, or you could even add extra walls and just expand the building out. You could even add an extra story to the building, right? A single story becomes a 2-story. So luxury plus, this is where I don't want you guys to exist. I don't. If you're marketing to luxury plus properties, your buyer pool is going to be so small that there's probably only going to be 1 or 2 flippers in that entire county that can actually handle that job. Okay. In Utah, we have the parade of homes. The parade of homes would be considered luxury plus. Okay. Where you go there and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. This guy has a shooting range in his basement. Right? Things like that. That is where money is no object and the price can go up and up and up from there. I myself, I've never done a luxury plus and I hope I never will. God, I hope I never will. Okay. Why is that? Because it takes so much more work and time and everything has to be permitted. Everything has to be perfect. And again, adding a second kitchen or a second bathroom or adding and changing things is just going to add to that price. And I just realized I'm not even sharing my screen right now. There you go. So as I was saying, so luxury plus is $150 to $300 plus per square foot. And again, the sky's the limit. If you want to, build in a bird sanctuary, I don't know how much that costs. Okay. If you want to have a tiger cage, I don't know how much that costs. All right. But when multimillionaires buy properties, that's what they look at. So anyway, guys, that kind of wraps it up for the luxury side of things and lipstick and all of that kind of stuff. I want to open this up right now. Does anyone have any questions about what we've gone over? Does it all make sense?
It does to me.
Irving, does this get easier over time? I can hear the fear in your voice. Yes, this does get easier over time. When I am rehabbing a property or I'm comping a property, and by the way, next week, guys, I think we're going to probably go into comping. I think that's what we're going to focus on, is when you are looking at a property based off of what they tell you. Like this, pop quiz. Corlin, you there? Okay. Corlin, ready?
Yes.
Pop quiz. Thousand square foot property hasn't been updated since 1972.
Where at?
Salt Lake County.
So what's the question? Sorry, what's the overall?
Oh, sorry, you're probably with your family. Not listening. I was saying.
You're good. I heard you were saying comping, but I don't understand. I was trying to, yeah.
I was saying that eventually, when you practice this enough times, you can just come up with the rehab value right off the top of your head, based off of what the seller told you, right? So property hasn't been updated since 1972.
Yeah, I think you need to be like, what? 1,000 square feet, you said?
Yeah, 1,000 square feet.
I'm guessing you're 50, 60,000.
You're exactly right. One more thing, guys, I forgot to mention. Let me share my screen. Let me do this one more time. I totally forgot to mention one more thing. All of this does not include major components. Totally forgot to mention that. And that's something that I need to include real quick. All of this does not include major components. And what are major components? HVAC, roof, plumbing, electric.
Mm-hmm. Like new panel, you mean?
Yeah, new panel. Yeah, new. If you're knob and tube, you got to do all new electric. Foundation, and I will even say water damage or mold.
Yeah, that's pricey.
Yeah. All of these right here can make or break an actual deal. All right. I want you guys to pay attention to this. These are all major components, and each of these are going to be a minimum of $5K. No matter what. Mm-hmm. No matter what. You can't replace HVAC for less than $5,000. You can't replace roof. You can't replace plumbing. You can't replace electric. You can't replace foundation, and you can't remediate mold for less than $5,000. So
I have a $10,000, subtract 10,000 for any of the majors. So like on my little calculator, it's like 5 majors. That's 50 grand more.
That's a great way of looking at it, right? For me, I'm okay looking at it as $5,000. I think 10,000 is a little bit overplaying. I'd rather have you, Cortland, if the renovation is $50,000, but then it needs, 5 things to be replaced, that's another $50,000. If you're doing it all in bulk, it might be a little bit cheaper. You might be able to have your electric guy. If you're doing a full flip, the electric might be less expensive because you're doing it all at the same time, right?
That makes sense. Yeah,
so, but if you need to go in and let's say electric is knob and tube, or the plumbing is cast iron and it's rusted and broken, and that's what you have to fix, that's a $5,000 fix, bare minimum. So 10,000. So anyway, does that make sense to you guys? Sharon, makes sense. Are there any absolute no-nos? Example, in a lipstick flip, would you leave the retro bathrooms if they are in good shape? Would you paint over the old brown paneling rather than replace with sheetrock? That's a very good question. And that comes out to the comps. And that comes out to what can you sell the ARV for, the after repair value, Sharon. That's the best way I would put this, is if there is money to be made, and let's say you have the property under contract for $200,000 and the property can sell with an ARV of 500 grand, I would replace everything. But if, let's say, there's no supporting comps that can reflect a good ARV, then I would probably change that up, and I'd go in and I'd only paint the cabinets. Right? If let's say the cabinets were replaced in 2005, do I need to replace those cabinets to become shaker cabinets? No, I don't. Should I paint them? Yes, I should. So this is where but here's the thing though. You yourself should not be considering this until you're about to flip. What you should be considering is what is the average cost based off of everything I just went into, that your price per square foot equals how much dollars per square foot. And that is going to base out your offer of getting that deal under contract. Okay. All right. So guys, if this is your first time here, like I said, we are actually going to hop into the next call right after this. This is for all of our semester students. We're going to actually start talking more about this and implementing it. It's also the orientation call. So if you guys are a new student in our portal, you're going to have the link to that. Guys, if you have not done this yet, put this on your calendar every single week. Put a reminder for yourself that we're going to be doing this. Like I said, this is a free session for everybody. My goal is that if I can help you guys get a deal for free, right? You don't have to spend any money on education, and then you're ready to actually start leveling up your business, and you want to invest and you want to work together and join the semester, the investor semester. That's my goal. So again, there's no pressure. I love having you guys here. The more the merrier. And in fact, if you guys want to share next week to any friends or post it on your Facebook, that would also mean a lot to me. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to go over. Let me see here. Do you guys get any value from this? Put a 1 in the chat. Do you guys got value? A lot of that. 1, Fire, Shirley, Adam 1. All right, guys. If you guys want to hop on a call with me, if you're considering, like I said, you want to join the investor semester, or you just want a 15-minute strategy call with me where we can go over the next 90 days of your business, let us hop on a call. And there is the link in the chat right there. Please don't be afraid. I'm not going to bite your head off. I'm not going to make you feel stupid. My goal, like I said, if I'm looking for the right students, I'm looking for people that see the value in what I'm teaching. And if I can help you guys build your business out right, the one rule I have for all my students is, number one, I will never, ever, ever make you spend money on education if it's going to actually damage your business, right? If you're going to be spending $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 on any form of education, you need to be able to implement that education right away in your business to make a return. There has to be a return on investment. And if you guys are not in that position to make that work, you're not a student. You're not ready. I don't want you to do that. But if I can provide free value to you guys right now to where you can start making money or start getting your business built out right, and you want to start elevating, that's what that call is for. So guys, put a 2 in the chat if you're going to be booking a call with me. I just want to see. Ian, Irving, 2. Awesome. Like I said, I'm happy with anybody that wants to book a call. So guys, we will wrap it up there. I will see you guys in the next call, guys. Sharon, thank you very much. Yeah, guys, the link is in the portal. It's going to be the freshman call right after this, orientation, and then we'll talk about in the deeper dive about what we just talked about and how to implement it. Okay, guys? So we'll see you guys there and see you guys next week, okay?
Sounds good.
Bye, everybody.